I know you contacted me about 2 years ago to to kind of work on any film. I have not done any project since then, which has been production or direction related. I've been writing, and I
Okay.
did a casting thing. I think when you contacted me, I was casting for something, which is why I asked you. You're looking, and I think I put a post saying I'm looking for assistance for casting, and then you messaged me, and I was like, I'm are you like, what do you want to do? Direction, producing, and then you tell me about filmmaking.
Okay. No problem. It's fine.
You contacted me to assist me for films, which I'm sure you must have done with a lot of people. You're living in Punjab and you're trying to, work over here in Bombay where all the work is happening. And even at the young age at which you are, because I know you're very, very young, you were way younger 2 years ago, you have found a way to expand your knowledge because I see a lot of people right now. They are young. They have become critics, and they have formed a lot of knowledge of cinema by watching films. And of course, they I think whatever learning they've had, it reflects like in with you in what you are saying and communicating through your posts and everything. But with a lot of them, I see this attitude of we have already learned. We already know a lot of stuff. So the conversation actually comes from a place of knowing and to see somebody who is saying that I'm trying to learn about it. I'm not even saying that I'm learning, but I'm trying. It's like there's already a humility and a modesty in there, which is saying that there's a lot to learn, and I'm here to learn and do that through conversations. And I'm not somebody who even thinks I have much to offer in terms of learning. It's about sharing experiences from which you can pick up stuff. But to see somebody have that attitude towards filmmaking is very, very refreshing.
Thank
So,
you. Thank you so
yeah.
much.
Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today my guest is Anukampa Harsh, who is the producer of Fairy Folk and the writer of Natkhat. So do watch the whole interview, like the interview, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. First question is like, what inspired you to become a producer, ma'am? So if you could tell the whole journey, like,
I do not know if anything inspired me to become a producer, but I'll tell you that what inspired me to become an actress, because that was the first step that I took into the world of filmmaking and cinema. And that is just the environment in my house. My mother has always been a part of filmmaking, and she is an unabashed student of cinema in the sense that she grew up in cities like Lucknow, Nainital, Mussoorie. She did a kindergarten in Devriyag because my grandfather was an intelligence officer, so kept getting transferred. And whichever city she went to, she tells me that there was always a theater which showed very old films. So, films which were like way before she was born, and she would find ways to buy tickets to those films and go and watch them. She had this intrigue from just it was like a natural born thing, and she got that into the home in which I was born, which is to her, and I grew up in a home where cinema, no matter how old or black and white or silent or colored or technicolor or not, it was playing in the house. The soundtrack in the house. Also, we would have Naushad Saab's music. We would also have A.R. Rahman's music. I developed my own interests. So for me, in terms of storytelling, cinema became such a strong presence and it drew me so strongly. So I am known, I'm notorious. My mom will tell you stories that when I would watch a film, even as a child, you could not cross my eye line. So even as a kid, when a film was going on, and I would just like sit like that, and if somebody like even like went to pick up something on there, I would get so annoyed. And she like, you're such an annoying person. And I think even today in a theater, when I go in there, I hate when people are slurping and munching and the lights of the phone coming on. For me, it needs to be a completely like dedicated, vicarious experience where I'm completely immersed in the film. So, right since I was a kid, I think this is all I wanted. There was nothing else I ever imagined doing. Just that as a kid, I don't think I had the confidence to say that I want to become an actress. because there are so many, there's such a strong baggage to what an actress is meant to be in terms of, the vanity of it. And as a child, especially when you're ungroomed and you're what, 6, 7, 8, you do not know what you're going to be like as a teenager, as a grown girl, or whatever. So I didn't have the confidence to say it. And yet, I'm the only child, and it was very, very, and my mother was a single parent. Like, eventually it was just a home with the two of us, and therefore I had a lot of time alone to myself. It was very common to walk into my room, and if I'm alone, I'm mostly acting without realizing I'm acting. So if I'm doing my homework, I'm a teacher, and there's a classroom in front of me, and I'm doing my learning and my homework by teaching, and I could see those 20 students. I could see all of them. Like, I knew that, oh, you keep quiet and you're always talking, and then okay, I'll give you you, like, I would, and I had my little blackboard and I'm play acting, and I would not even realize that I'm actually performing when I'm doing this. Or I would go in front of the mirror and maybe I've imagined a scene in my head and I'm acting it out. But I was so conscious that I didn't have the guts to go to school and actually be in a play. It was very weird. It was like I'm having this learning and this growth and this art form which is very private. And I think I was about 12 or something when I told mom I want to be an actress. And before that, I think she imagined I'm going to be an IS officer or something because I was good at my in academics, and I used to study without tuitions. So, and get good grades and everything. So people around her would say, "Oh, I think she'll become a mathematician because I used to like maths," or um, she this is no, she can be like an IS officer. And then one day I just told her I want to be an actress, and it didn't take her, like, she just told me, "You're sure about this? Great, you have to work very hard." Like, it was not like, okay, you know what? Oh, you want to be an actress? Let's figure, like, let's meet somebody and let me figure out in my friend circle or something. Okay, we have to start then working towards it, training towards it. And right from then, my my training in terms of, she put me in Kathak class, like, with the best guru, Srimati Uma Dogra. She put me in Prithvi Theatre. They have like these wonderful children's workshops during the summer, like the summer camp workshops, and I was learning with Sanjana Kapoor. I was in her workshop. So my very first theatre performance happened in Prithvi, where Mr. Shashi Kapoor came and he watched and he gave all the kids certificates. So it was so enriching without me realizing that my life is getting enriched in a very, very beautiful manner, because I was still watching films. I was still, uh, even Kathak, for mom, was like, I always loved dancing. She's like, this will enhance your movement in your dance while also teaching you how. So this is a great way to learn. Okay. Suddenly, as Sanjana student, Sanjana tells my mother, "Oh, there's a great clowning workshop also happening." So the next thing, I'm suddenly doing a clowning workshop, and I'm juggling, and I'm, and it's happening in this really fun way. Satyadev Dubey is taking these free workshops every Monday in Prithvi, and I'm going for that. Then when I went to my college, suddenly I think my personality became more outgoing, and I began participating in things. And at the age of 18, she took me to FTII for the film appreciation course. I didn't even know what FA was. I didn't know what film appreciation was. But Manikal had told her when she was working with him, way, I think, before I was born or something, that you go for that because it has the best of cinema. It's on film. It's archived in the best way possible. You watch them on the big screen. So just go. And that time FA was, I think, over 2 months long, and she couldn't leave her daughter in Bombay and then go for it. She didn't know how to juggle it. So she waited for me to turn 18. And then for the first time, mother and daughter both together. I think it was historic. They never had a mother and daughter on campus as students before in FTII, and we did the FA together. And after having watched all the possible cinema of Raj Kapoor and Mehboob Saab and Guru Dutt and everything, suddenly I'm sitting in NFAI and I'm watching Kislovsky and Kurosawa and Kiarostami and Godard and Fellini, and by 18 now my world has enriched even more. So, and I also had, because again I'm being the only child and having a very, very active imagination. I used to write stories since I was a kid. So I used to write a lot of stories, and I started writing. I have a journal from the time I think when I was 13 or 14, where I would only write movie ideas. And I think it would be like movie one, movie two, movie three, and I think I must have over 50 from back then, which were just film ideas and Hindi film ideas and Hollywood film ideas. Like there was a strong demarcation depending on the treatment of the film, because if it's very commercial and has music and songs and it's melodramatic, then that's a Hindi film. But if it's it's in a different zone, then it's like an international film. So I had that within my diary. So I always imagined that okay, I'm going to act, I'm going to become famous, and then I'm going to use that fame to start making films that I want to make. And that's, I think, the dream that I had for Balawala cinema. That there's a certain kind of cinema that I love, and maybe as an actress, I'll not be able to control the kind of stories that I'm telling. It'll depend on the opportunities that come to me, and I'll choose the best of them. And but then eventually, these stories that I keep imagining and writing, I want to manifest them and I want to make them, and that's when I will use my name to produce under Wala Wala Cinema and make films and direct films. And it was meant to be, I think, a banner, and it is still meant to. It is still for me a name, a brand for the kind of cinema that I want to make and tell. But whatever happened in my career, and even despite having done a lot of work, it's not like I got fame. So, which means that it's not like I had a huge bank account or a name in the industry where I can, mount a picture on my name. So, I think the dream just kept getting pushed. Still, I got opportunities where people were collaborating with me, which was basically my friend circle. And then I said, I think I created those opportunities. It's not like they came seeking me. I just became over enthusiastic where I'm like, instead of an actress waiting between auditions and waiting for work to happen, let me just go out to friends and say, hey, you know what are you doing? Let me just come and hang on your set. Let me just come and work with you. What are you? Okay, you're writing something. Let me just, like Shan, he had written he's written a couple of short film stories which he had when initially began chatting, and he had shared those short film scripts with me, and they're all very very good. This is like before Natkhat, and one of them, it was a very very Indian Hindi short film, but it had dialogues in English, which he wanted to make it in, and he had somebody in mind that he was collaborating with, and I was so over enthusiastic that from my own side, he didn't even know he knew me as an actress. I just sent him a draft with Hindi dialogues. I said, listen, I just worked on this, and I think for him it's like Mary script. I didn't ask, मतलब जान ना पहचान तू मेरा मेहमान kind of a thing. But I think I was just itching with creativity that I wanted to express. And whether a person asked me or not, like this friend of mine, Gautam Kishan Chandani, he's a very, very respected name amongst the casting directors in our industry today, but he's also a wonderful writer, filmmaker. And I went to audition for something for him for a film that he was testing actors for, Vishal Bhardwaj film. But then I was like, you know what, Gotham, what else is going on? You want me to read with actors? Because sometimes what happens in audition when we go as actors, the person reading opposite us is not always like the best person to give lines because it may or may not be an actor. Mostly is today. I think the casting scene has changed a lot, and people like Gotham, they have a very very good team, and they have wonderful people, but they're always looking at good actors to perform and kind of have that exchange going on behind the camera as well. So I said, whom are you auditioning? Are you auditioning someone? I'm ready to like read lines with actors. So I was always offering myself up for these kind of services as such that tell me anything creative. I don't want to sit at home. And I think that's eventually how I went behind the camera and work became more official, and eventually ended up producing a film which is not my own story but a friend's story, and that's how the producing happened. The long answer to
Great, 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 ma'am. Great. Ma'am, what is the job of a producer, ma'am? Because everybody thinks it's about money. Like producer have a lot of money.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a myth. See. I think, to be fair, there must have been a time when in the industry filmmaking started, and I'm saying 100 years ago or whenever, producer must have been a person who. Uh, I'm pretty sure when cinema started, and I'm imagining it. I'm imagining it in my head. This is not something that I'm verifying through research or history, but having whatever I've been exposed to, there were not many people who knew what this art form is, right? So if I tell someone, I'm going to make a film, they're like, what is a film? Whenever it must have started. So the number of people must have been so less, which is why when you will see even the credits of the earlier films, they're very simplistic. It seems like there are very less people who have made it. I'm sure there must have been more unferreted names, and maybe in that setup a producer was somebody who gave money and kind of said, here, take the money, get whatever people and equipment you need and make a film. And maybe that has changed over the years, and which is why producers today feel that no, we are not simply people with money bags, because that is what a financer does. Financier, some people say financier, but I think it's financer. That's the job of a person, who's funding the film. But a producer is literally, I think it's in the name itself. Like, producing is synonymous with manifesting. It's synonymous with making things happen. Even with the mother, you say you're producing a child. uh, you literally take that film, and it's almost like you provide a womb for it to become what it becomes, and then release it into the world and say, here's this filmmaker's baby. And except for the fact that you never own the baby, it's almost like you're a surrogate mother, and the baby is always going to be the director's baby. But a producer, I think the first thing a producer does is recognize potential in a project, which, because there are so many writers with great scripts, so many directors with wonderful vision, but here is a person sitting over here in the market who's seeing potential in something that maybe others have missed, and then they will do whatever is within their power to make sure that the right people get attached to that project, and bring in the right combination of talents. Because even the actors, yes, the actor and director have a very, very special relationship, and you can see that in every interview. Even if you're following Oppenheimer, suddenly you're only looking at the actor and director talking everywhere, right? It's a very, very special relationship. But a producer could have a very, very big hand in making sure those talents come for the project, and even suggesting names sometimes. So of course, I'm not saying somebody like a Nolan needs suggestions. I'm pretty sure that when he's writing his film, he knows exactly who's in it. But there are many directors, they might have a certain idea about the kind of actors they want, but may not be able to always visualize that. And we have a casting director for that as well. But uh, there is a law that a producer also has a say in that. And some of it, yes, may not be constructive, because there are stories on the other side of producers now, and for a very good reason, thinking about the market and thinking about who's a sellable face and a name that can draw the audience, which is not exactly a creative decision, which a director or a casting director might favor. But I have realized that it is also a very important thing for producers to think of, which is the economy of a film. Because ultimately, what will they do if they do not recover the money? How will they make the next film happen? If you are in it for the long run, you do need to think about the fact that you are not here. This is called film industry for a reason. It's an industry. It's a business. I'm pretty sure that even when somebody as legendary as Ratan Tata is thinking about a product which they want to put into the market, they're thinking of, will we have a revenue for this, so that we can, unless and until you think it's charity, then that's something else altogether. So yeah, a producer has a role to play in putting the project together to make sure that the shoot is a smooth process, and whatever hurdles that might come along the way while you're making the film, those hurdles are overcome in a way that, in a manner in which the director is not distracted by that. Your solutions need to come in a way that it's almost like you are aware of something that could go wrong, and you fix it with without bringing the attention of the team to it too much, because you want them to creatively stay immersed as much as they can within the process. And then you take care, of course, about the film getting made in the post process as well, whether it's the editing and packaging the film and PR, and then bringing it into the world through release and finding the right way to release the film, whatever the way might be, theatrical, OTT, everything. If you have an indie film, then festivals, reaching out to different festivals, finding ways in which finding the right festivals where your film fits, and making sure that half the films that don't get selected by festivals is not because, I mean, them, yes, they may not be good enough, and I'm not talking about those, but there are many good films that may or may not get selected because people have not watched the film. It is not easy, to get your film noticed and watched, and for someone to like finish the film and then decide. It happens at the Academy as well. Like so many misses that happen at the Oscars where you feel like this should have been nominated, and why hasn't it? Because not enough people from the Academy have watched that film. So that's what a producer does. So even when you want to get the Oscar, a producer makes sure that you campaign hard for that film, so enough people realize there's a title like this from those thousands of titles that are there, you know, on with within their reach, and you choose those titles to watch. And a producer's campaigning, a producer's like literally taking that jhanda in the hand and saying that here's a great film, here's a great filmmaker. And my heart goes out to all the producers who have taken this up upon themselves and made it like something that they're doing for their entire lives.
Mm, mm, yeah, correct. But one more question, like let's say if a new director wants to make a film and get a producer, and he wants to get produced by you, so how they can approach you, and what kind of scripts you like?
You're asking a question related to me, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
And not generally for producers in general.
Yeah,
I think I'll have to make this a question about producers in general, not me. But for any new filmmaker who would like to come into the market with their film, I think first of all it'll be great to share your film with trusted sources after having registered the script. First of all, make sure you've registered it, even though legally there are lots of ways for people to go around something, and if somebody wants to actually do something with your idea, they can still find a way to do it. But I would tell anybody out there who's a newbie that please make sure that you register your work, have some kind of proof of the fact that this is your IP. And if you are not a member of something like, say, the Screenwriters Association or something, then if you have a friend that you trust and you can do it through them, please do that. Email the script to yourself. That's also proof that it reached you. Take a Xerox copy, like print it out and mail it to yourself, like a registered. I think there's some legal ways of doing it. After you do all of that, and you try to reach out to people whom you creatively are inspired by, and whose voices you feel will you know give you the right kind of advice, and if they have the time, make them see your stories, even if they will not directly help you, even if they can simply help you by giving you the right kind of feedback on it, because it's very important before you take your script into the market that you have really, it's like the right document. You don't, if someone is giving you the time to read it, say you're getting into a production house and they say, okay, send your script or send your story, you don't want it to then reach into someone's inbox and they give you the time and they sit to read it, and then there's something wrong, because then that's your one shot. So rather make sure that you have gone through that little round informally already within a circle that you trust, and then take it out there. One of the best ways to ensure that you get a producer on board is if you can get an actor to say yes to your. If you do have access to some actor who can read that and say, "Oh, this is a great script and I want to do it," then you can actually go with the confidence of saying that I already have somebody showing interest in this. You already know that this is an easy pitch. Or if you think that no, you're an outsider, and I'm saying outsider in a very loose way, and you have zero access to anybody, then maybe in your head imagine what this world will be like. Whom do you think can play this part, and whom do you think can play? And you can be as ambitious as you want in your imagination, but if you're going to someone and telling them that, listen, make my film, they want to also understand your vision and what are you imagining. If you have HODs in mind, if you think that this is the right editor for it, and right cinematographer for this, keep those names ready. It's like your packaging. It's almost like this is the one shot where you're putting your dreams out there and say, this is what I want to manifest. And the more clarity you have as a filmmaker, I think that will really reach out to someone. Of course, I'm saying this from my observation. I'm saying this through the conversation that I keep hearing. As a filmmaker, I have not yet gone with my script into the market where I have, said this is my script and come on now, I've not had that experience of rejection or acceptance to say this is coming from there. But I can tell you, for example, with Natkhat, uh, the the people who came on board, they came on board on the basis of the script. Like they read the script and it was instantly like, okay, we need to make this. So your script does have the power to draw the right people, which is why it's very important that you don't take something raw into the market. You have worked on it enough, and however rewrites, however many rewrites it takes, however many like revisions and feedback and whatever, even if it's just you dealing with your own self doubt, but when you go out there, you should be able to pitch it with 100% conviction, because before you can convince anyone else, you have to be.
And now let's talk about Natkhat. Like you're the writer, how the idea came in for the story.
No, so the idea was absolutely not mine. The idea was Shan, the director, Shan Vyas. And I think it's very common for us to read the news every once in a while, actually not once in a while, quite often, come across articles which are completely horrific in terms of the sexual violence that they are speaking about, whether and whatever the scale of it might be, and whatever the age group might be, or the number of men might be, whichever district or state it might be in. And one such case really infuriated Shan when he read about that in the news, and what he did is he channeled his anger into a story, and he instantly came up with the story of Natkhat. And I I have heard him speak about it enough to know that I think for him it the story came from this entire, I think, thought process that we have had enough of speaking about. Okay, there are these rapists and criminals and predators out there, and what is the law going to do about it, and what can we as a society do to punish them? But how are these people getting made? And by made, I mean to say, what is happening? What's wrong in their upbringing or their parvarish or their teaching, their schooling, that they become these people and they think it is okay to do what there. Because when you watch the interviews, there was a documentary on Nirbhaya also. There's almost like there's no remorse when a person is speaking about what they're saying, and you will also hear their parents speak, and you will see that the parents are defending them, and they're feeling so wronged by the fact that the court has said that, okay, you know what, we want to punish them or give them a death sentence. And it's almost like, what are you doing to my child? Like it's not been that bad. So there's something obviously there about the way these people have been raised, and the parenting around. And I think the idea of Natkhat came from instead of fixing the criminal, what do we do about eradicating the crime? Like, what do we do about inculcating it into the teaching that this is wrong and you should not be doing this? So that's how the story and the screenplay of it in its initial draft was written by Shan. And I think initially he came to me with the intention that he wanted Hindi dialogues and he wanted someone to write the dialogues for it. But then when I came on board, and obviously I had my own perspective, and it was a female gaze on the script, and there were many things that I wanted to add to it. And soon it became a collaboration, which was on the writing. So there were scenes which perhaps had a certain take from his point of view, but I felt like that because it's also your own personal experience and observation, having grown up and knowing what that what Eve teasing feels like, and just adding those little layers into it. And then I wrote a version of the script which was a little longer, and it was my version. Then he took it back, and then he did a revision. I did a revision. Ultimately, we came together. And that's how the final screenplay and script of Natkhat was written.
And ma'am, casting Vidya Balan. Mm, how did you approach her? Like you knew her?
I did. I did, but I had not been in touch with her for a very, very long time. We both are from the same college, that's Xavier's, St. Xavier's in Bombay. And we had met a very, like, ages ago in a workshop that was happening in Xavier's. It was some kind of a thing where when she had come to attend, and I also happened to be there. We had become friends. Then in the sense like got to know each other and each other. But then of course we were not in touch, like I said. But the way it happened was had nothing to do with the fact that I knew Vidya. It was simply about the fact that I asked Shan that you just close your eyes and in without thinking about whether the actress will say no or whether she has done something like this short film and who and just think from like ask your heart who's the ideal person for this role, like who would you want for this? And he said Vidya. Okay, then we have to approach them. Like we need to start from where what we are dreaming, and that's how we approached her. And it she was just so, as she is always, gracious and graceful. And we sent her the script, and she read the script, and she had a meeting with us, and then she had a long chat with Shan, understood the vision and everything, and then she said, I want to make sure the story comes out of the world, and that's how it happened. And she had not done a short film before, obviously, so it was just great to have someone of her stature and her voice back the story, because I do not think Natkhat would have had to reach an impact and been noticed by the industry on the scale it did. And I think every possible critic and every possible publication has reviewed Natkhat and spoken about Natkhat despite the lockdown. Like we were in the peak of lockdown when it released. This was like June 2020 is when we had our premiere on a virtual film festival, which was Tribeca's VR1 in collaboration with Mami, and Smriti Kiran had curated Natkhat as part of from the India selection, and we were sitting in our homes and watching it. So it was so isolated because literally it was like this. We are sitting like this. And all the interviews and everything is happening like this. So even any messages of appreciation are coming on the phone. It's not like we had a live audience in front of us. And it had that reach, and I would say it was obviously because Vidya was attached. And we also had great producers in RSVP and Ronnie Screwwala and Sanaya Zorabi, who was the first to recognize the film and say this needs to get made as a producer. And they also left no stone unturned in terms of just making sure that people know that there's a film and there's an important film and it needs to be seen. So we do consider ourselves very, very lucky that, and this was such a passion project for us that to have it manifested this way, it still feels like a dream.
Ma'am, how much time it took to like complete the film?
I'm thinking about it. I would say the shoot was not more than 7 days. We had 4 days of shoot, which was an exterior shoot in MP in Harda, where the child is from, because we had decided we are going to shoot and cast kids from wherever we find Sonu. Anywhere in India we find Sonu, because Sonu is so important. And then we found this beautiful, beautiful child, Sanika, and we cast her, and she's from Harda and MP. So we took, we took our entire unit over there, and we did the outdoor and we cast kids from over there. So there was 4 days of shoot over there, 3 days of shoot in Bombay, a few days, almost a month long period of rehearsal with the children because they were all first time actors. So we had like almost, yeah, 3 weeks or something of prep and workshopping with the kids, and maybe a couple of months later, the edit. So I would say maybe 5 6 months. I'm mm, I would say roughly that it was not like intensive in the sense that back to back we're only doing, but also Shan is he his attention to detail is a lot. So even if we are coloring and our colorist is the amazing Sydney, and there's a little like tiny thing also in one corner. So he's sitting with Sid, and they're like a little bit over here, a little grain over here, and a little grain over there. It was a very very fun process. But yeah, overall, it did take a couple.
And obviously, ma'am, the child who plays Sonu, she like how do you find her, ma'am? First of all,
It was, I think, a godsend thing with Sanika because we had imagined that casting Sonu is going to take a couple of months. So we had actually given ourselves at least 2 months to find Sonu. And Sonu for us was very, very important for obviously because without having the right Sonu and having Sonu play it correctly, I think the film would have fallen flat because it is ultimately a mother and child story. And we needed the right child for it. I would not even say child actor because I think once you find the right child, and the child can also be an actor. It was. We are not looking for people who are professional as such. But the point was, Shan was very concerned about the fact that here is a character who's doing these, uh, in mild words, mean things to girls. Okay. Now, whether it is pushing or shoving or intimidating or whatever it is, or even the other kids pulling flats and what if we get a boy who actually is enjoying doing that, like is actually a naughty kid and who would happily push a girl or hurt a girl, or we don't want that environment on the set where what we are actually saying that this is wrong is getting perpetuated because of our shoot. So we need a child who is sensitive enough to understand that this is performance, and when you say that ye karo, there is a certain, like, the child is able to control it enough and not make it so real that somebody opposite the child gets hurt. So how do we do it? So we need to find the right. So we need to find the right boy who can bring this again in a very mild word, the naughtiness of a Natkhat boy on screen, but at the same time can have the sensitivity to how to handle his co-actors. And suddenly, one fine evening, as I was scrolling Instagram, I came across a reel that Mr. Anupam Kher had posted saying that uh, there's this poem, Suno Draupadi Shastra Uthalo, Ab Govinda Aayenge. I'm forgetting the poet right now, and I'm very sorry about that. To the poet, I'm apologizing. But Sanika has done a wonderful rendition of it. Like, it's a very powerful rendition. And Mr. Khera posted it saying that he must have ordered on WhatsApp or something. He said this child has been such a wonderful thing and God bless this child, whoever this child is. He didn't credit because he didn't know who the child is. And I saw it and I'm like, who is this child? And of course you can see it's a girl, but I'm like, this is Sonu. And I instantly saw it and I said, okay, this is, and she had short hair in it anyway, and she had this entire energy of like, and you're saying these, it's a big poem, so you're saying these lines. So instantly, when you think of a child remembering lines and all, it's like, okay, this is a natural born orator, and if you can orate like this, if you have this kind of an orator, this kind of skills in oration, then obviously you can learn lines and perform as well. It was a very instinctual decision in on my part to see the child and feel that we have found our Sonu, but there was no way to trace the child at still. So then I went through the comment section and then I found a gentleman's comment over there saying that this is my niece and Mitti ki beti, this is my niece, Mitti ki beti Sanika. And then I went to that gentleman's profile. I sent him a message saying I need to get in touch with your niece. I went to Mitti ki beti ki Sanika ka profile. I said I need to get in touch with you, the parents and whatever. And I think within the next hour or two, I was on the phone call with the father and pitching the film to them, not knowing where. So I'm like, कहाँ से हूँ? MP से MP में कहाँ? हरदा से है. Like हरदा कहाँ पर है? So I mean, I wasn't sure of the geographical location at the time, and we didn't have to audition a single child for something like this. We didn't even test her, and just send Chand the link of that thing that we have. I think we have found Sonu. Look no further, and I think the relief that came over us that if a girl is going to play Sonu, suddenly this entire thing of telling that, oh, as a boy, you should not be doing this to a girl and not push a girl and everything. You already are getting somebody who's sensitive enough to understand that. I think every single child on our film is extra sensitive, extra wonderful. There have been like kids, even if they have to push somebody and not Sanika, even if there's somebody else, like, lag jayegi, gir jayenge. Like, it was just a joy to do. Absolutely.
Ma'am, was it difficult to convince like her parents, or was it easy?
What was it difficult to convince?
Her parents, like for the role.
No, it was not difficult, actually speaking, because the way to convince was that we're making a film which is to spread the message about uh, gender sensitivity and a message against gender-based violence. And they, as a family, are people with daughters in their homes that they are raising like boys. So they are a family who do not differentiate between the boy and the girl home. Even Sanika, I remember she had watched Dangal and she suddenly realized that she wants to become a wrestler. So they had like, I think, a rope for her to climb on, and they had like whatever she wanted to try to, because that was what she was fond of at that point in time. I think that she saw some other film and she changed her profession afterwards, like what she wants to be. But that time it was wrestling. So fine, then you want to do wrestling, then let's enable that. So that's the attitude with the parents. They're very very sweet, and I think for them, I just the entire thing of what a shoot will be like. Perhaps that is not something that they must have anticipated, because I wouldn't imagine them, having seen a shoot before, or and a lot of the kids who were cast, they didn't know what filmmaking is. They didn't know. At least kids in Bombay are a little aware of it, especially if they're going for auditions and all. They know what a camera setup and everything looks like. Not to say the people in MP are not kids. There was a TikTok star who came to audition for us in in MP. So we were like, okay, ये TikTok star है, इसको like line में खड़ा मत करो, that kind of a thing. The mother had an attitude, but so people are aware, but I think just what that filmmaking process will be like, that was the first time experience for most of them. Which is why if you take the end credits of Natkhat, you will see that the introducing section is a very long one. So you will the main cast that you see, which is Vidya and the family, Raj Arjun, Mr. Atul Tiwari, Sparsh Srivastav. They are the ones that you will Nivedita Bhontial. They are the senior actors, in the sense professional actors. They have a separate slate and all. But the introducing just goes on and on because everyone is facing the camera.
Absolutely. Ma'am, let's talk about ma'am fairy folks. Ma'am, what was the experience ma'am when making it? Ma'am, you're a producer.
Yes, I am the producer and casting director on that. Fairy Folk came to me initially as an actor because the director Karan Gaur wanted Shan to produce the film because Shan was also the producer on his first film, Share. And that's how actually they began their career. It was Karan's debut as a director, Shan was the producer. And they also have a long-standing friendship from way before Share. Uh, Music got them together. Shan was a drummer, Karan's into music, and they have a history from back then. So it was initially something that Shan was helping set up, as a feature, but he also had some other project in hand that he was in the market with, and he didn't have the time at that specific period when Karan was making the film. So Karan was looking for somebody who could step into Shan's shoes, and the kind of indie filmmaking that they do, it is not something that a normal producer in the market, executive producer or line producer or whoever can do, because this is an indie filmmaker will understand, but this was like indie ka bhi baap, like it's indie ka indie. It's like it was a unit as small as 10 people, on some days, with 5 core people working on it, and then the other 5 could be somebody handling the equipment and the cast or whatever. If you had a large number of people on any given day, that was because the cast was large, that day, not because the unit was large. So that was the kind of shoot that we had. So initially, I think Shan suggested my name for a character in the film, and I met him as an actor, but it so happened that because I knew I'm acting in the film, I offered help with the casting process. Like I said, I was being very enthusiastic and offering help everywhere. And soon I became the casting director because I took over the casting and I was in charge of like reaching out to the talent and putting out posts. So we have people approaching us and then taking them to the process of what the audition entailed, because it was completely involved. And I began in every audition playing every character because that's what I was doing. And suddenly, while I was doing that, Karan offered me and the position of the producer. He said, "Will you produce the film?" Because he had seen me work behind the camera on something else as well, and he felt that okay, fine, this is a person who can perhaps empower the journey. And because I had the childhood dream of starting Bala Wala Cinema, like I already shared with you, I was waiting for the day when I can make my own films, and I had up until then been busy with either acting or auditioning to get projects and just waiting for things to manifest and come out into the world. So I had not really taken up, you know, making like pitching my film out there and thinking, okay, let me set up my banner. And even though I registered the name way back, I registered it. So when Fairy Folk happened, I said, you know what, I think it's time to do something with my life. And that's how the producing happened. And how was the journey? It was exhausting. It was very exhausting because it was, like I said, just a few of us. And when you're making an indie film, there is no distinction between a producer and any other HOD. In the sense, of course, if it's a very technical job, which is DOP or you're doing sound, that's a very technical thing. So when I say other people, it would mean that generally when you're a producer, you have a line producer, you have a location manager, you are everything. You're also the spot. So you're also the person who's in charge of catering, and you're in charge of team, and you're in charge of costumes. So there were two people who are my left hand, my right hand, and I'm a lefty, so I'm not trying to say who's who right now. Himanshu Sharma and Movini Nirmal. Without them, I could not have done this, and we were all working gratis. These people didn't take like a single penny for this. It was just okay. Tell me, आपका रिक्शा कितना हुआ है? How much is conveyance, and I'm just giving that. So we were just here to make this Hindi film happen. And of course, Gitika Vidya, who gave us a home whenever she could help, she was constantly there. So it was a very, very intimate experience. So Fairy Folk is known in the world to be an improv film because the actors improvise. I think what people don't realize is that it was as much an improvisation behind the camera because no matter what kind of challenges you're facing or what is the requirement, you're constantly coming up with solutions, like thinking on your feet. It is not like you have ready-made things waiting because you're a studio or you're constantly अच्छा अब basement चाहिए shoot करने को. Now, let me think now. Which road should I be walking in? Which basement should I enter? And take permission from which person and say क्या आप दे सकते हो? So it was I think improv not just in front but behind the camera. So it's a pure improv.
And ma'am, how much time it took to like complete the film?
It took a very, very long time because to shoot, I would say I might not be able to give you the exact number, somewhere between 30 and 40 days we to shoot the film. And that was also because we were going linearly, we were shooting in a linear format. We went from scene one to the last scene. So it was a lot of time would get spent in setup and travel. So if we have scene one in a forest and scene two at home in a room and scene three in a forest and scene four again in a we would go in that order. So then pack your equipment, travel to that location where you shot in the forest and come back, pack your equipment and come back in the house. We could not package the film in a way that okay इस एक दिन में सारे इस लोकेशन के सीन we couldn't do that. So that was also a reason why it took a little longer than it would have ordinarily. Because obviously we were improving and the dialogues were not on paper, so we had to know the dialogue spoken in the first scene to be able to have a memory of it in the next scene. So that was one thing, and the other thing is that Karan is not just the writer and director, but he's also the editor. He's done the BGM for the film. He's been very keenly involved in the VFX and the coloring and everything. In a sense, it has been outsourced, but the first pass goes through him. He does as much as possible alone, while he's juggling his other work commitments, which would be like if he's writing or if he's giving the score for some other film, then that's happening while he's also editing. And editing involved a lot of footage because if we have say a scene in which actors have done an improv for 20 minutes straight, okay, in one take, and that's been shot on three cameras, which means that now you have a 60-minute take, one take, and then you've done a second take as well, and the second take you have done a little variation. So if Karan wants something else in that, he told the actors now is taking a ye try, but you have some material in the first take and then you have some material in the second take, and now this take could have happened for 25 minutes. So now you have a 1 hour 15-minute second take, right? So you can imagine the entire film, how much footage he must have had, and he's doing it alone. It's not like he even has an assistant to line it up for him. He's going through every single thing himself. So the process was a long one. Plus, we had a lockdown in between, two, three lockdowns that got announced, because of which, if we have to get our film colored, suddenly the studios are shut and we cannot do that. We cannot read our film. So it took a little longer than it should have. But yeah, it was a while.
Ma'am, it was recently released in Mumbai, if I'm correct.
In Mumbai and a couple of other cities, we had a little release.
So ma'am, when can we like assume like it will be in any OTT platform? Like,
I think there should be a campaign where people should say we want to watch Fairy Folk and start voting for it and spam people's inboxes, like spam the inbox of all the big platforms and all the big heads and tell them we want to watch this film, so can you please make sure you buy it and stream it ASAP. I think that's the way I can ensure that it will be in your homes very soon. But yeah, I think that's I have to start a campaign for stream Fairy Folk ASAP.
Okay, great, great. Ma'am, currently are you doing any other projects?
Yes, I have just finished dialogue work for a web series, which is in short right now. And I am working on two separate stories. That one is something that I want to make and direct myself, and but that will be a slow process because so it's a deep passion project. And there's another one that I am developing. Um, Actually, I have a couple of them, and for me, it's like I'm equally passionate about all of them. But some I want to make myself, and some I'm very happy to have another director come and work with me. So I'm all these stories, like I said, which have been in my journal and my inbox and my brain for the longest time. Now, for me, it is I'm at a stage where I'm saying I need this to go out into the world, and I need this to manifest as soon as possible.
Okay, okay, great. And ma'am, please do recommend your favorite films and filmmakers, ma'am.
So I will refrain from naming my favorite filmmakers for the simple reason that I think there are just so many of them who have influenced me, and yet I know that say I love Guru Dutt's work, but maybe I have not seen all of Guru Dutt's. There might be a possibility that I missed something out there, and yes, I have seen Charulata, but I may not have seen all of Ray's work. You know what I mean? So I feel like there have been these films which got me really close to a filmmaker, and I'm like, oh my god, I cannot believe someone can make a film like this. Like, what are you even doing? Um, See, as a child, actually, I'll tell you that because for me, all my journey and my closeness and my attachment to cinema, it all began as a kid. So I can tell you that when I was a kid, there were two filmmakers that I would repeatedly quote, and as a child, I would be like, if their film has released or there's a way to watch it, I'll get very excited. And that was Steven Spielberg. It still is. I love Spielberg. And the other is Mani Ratnam. And they are like two very different kinds of. I think the only common thing between them, a little bit, is that Mani Ratnam with Anjali, which is pretty much an ode to ET, and there are lots of visual elements in Anjali, especially Magic Journey as a song is like is them going on the cycle with Anjali on it and everything. It is almost like visually so representative of what we see in ET. But as a kid, yeah, these two people for me, it's like I have to watch them, I have to work with them. What are they saying? What are they doing? And of course, then I grew up and I discovered a lot of other filmmakers. But I'll tell you the films which strongly influenced me. And the first film that really moved me very strongly, and I keep quoting this film all the time, is Jaate Raho. And Jaate Raho I saw as a child, and I remember this feeling that after the film got over, I felt like I cannot speak. And for a child to feel like that, I think it's a very very strong emotion for a child to feel like that, because her mom had borrowed a copy of that film from the local movie library, and she had to go back to return the copy of the film. And throughout that journey from our home to the library, which was very close, like a 10-minute walk, I remember just holding her hand and walking on the road like blankly, like, okay, you are navigating me, but I'm in the film, I'm not out of it. And I cannot forget that feeling. And I had rewatched that film a couple of years ago, and I felt like, oh my god, this. It's so. It's still. I feel so connected to it, and it's almost like I still remember the scene so clearly after all these years, and I still cry in the places I'm meant to cry. So that's a film I really, really, really love. I'm randomly thinking of films right now because, like I said, I, whatever have influenced me at some point in time. Decalogue, because um, I saw the Decalogue again at an age, I think I was 18 or something when I saw all the films, and I would watch each of them, and I could not imagine how someone can take the Ten Commandments and weave such beautiful stories around them. Like how how do you how do you take "Thou shalt not kill" and make it into a short story about killing? Like how do you even come up with that? I could and just Kislovsky is just he's too magical in what he is able to achieve through. And I keep feeling that sometimes filmmakers today, especially with the digital age and the ease with which you can make films, they forget that cinema is ultimately an audio visual medium, which means that it is not simply about shooting it, but it's how you use the audio and how you use the video to tell the story, and what layers can you add, and like Citizen Kane, for example. I can watch that film, and every time I cannot, I think, how how is it that every single frame in that film can be framed, and it is like a standalone. It's the composition of it. I cannot understand how, like, how in black and white something can be so evocative and dramatic, and which of course even Hitchcock did a lot, but and brilliantly, and you see all of those influences in Gurudat cinema and Raj Kapoor and Bimal Roy cinema. You see in Madhumati, and you see in you see like how they use light and shadow, and you know but it's so important to be able to understand that the frame is a magical space, and where you keep the camera is so important. It's not simply about shooting, but how are you doing it. So I think the reason I think Kislovsky, it's a mini series. It's a television series, and you've done something for television, but it's so cinematic. I always love using this word cinematic. Did the film feel cinematic? Like A24 films are so cinematic, whether you like them or you don't like them, whether they're weird or whether they are great, they're really cinematic. You feel that okay, this is film. So I have named two films, and then I've said a lot of other things. Uh, Okay. Uh, Mother India, I would say, for the fact that this was a favorite in the house. My mother loves that film, and and I think I've had a journey with the film. There was a time when I was a small kid, and I might have found it like there are too many songs, and I might have fallen asleep, or not understood this mother who's really crying for the child when I was very, very little. Suddenly you start growing up, and you still find beauty in things even as a little kid, and no matter, because sometimes say, mom's watching a film at 9 o'clock and it'll go on till midnight, and there will be a time when you'll fall asleep, but yet there are some things which will, you still want to watch that one scene still, and it's still so magical. And then you're growing up, and then you want to become an actress, and you're thinking, how did Nargis pull off a role like this? Like, how did somebody pull off a thing where you're starting off as a young girl, and then you're aging through the film, and you're playing a mother to people who are your contemporaries, and how are you setting up this world? uh, you realize the magic of the music, and you realize the magic that people are always passing comments. I've seen, in especially in my age group, and maybe even the younger lot who are coming in now, they'll be like, oh, that those films are very, very loud, and they're very slow, and there's so much melodrama and the way they're acting. But people don't realize that everything is true to the culture of the time. Like cinema today, also 20 years later, maybe our kids and grandkids might find what we are watching very melodramatic, or maybe very fast. Maybe things will become slower later. You have to see things from the lens of at what period was it, and not judge it for ye acting too, because that time actors were influenced by theatre. That's where they were coming from. Prithviraj Kapoor was doing theatre before, he came before the camera. So of course there's a very different thing. The relationship with camera was a very new one, and the people were also like this. We as Indians are very loud people now. We have become a little bit more sophisticated because we have a lot of Western influence. So we will perhaps speak in a certain way, and but we are a very loud population. Uh, Go to any market, go to a railway station, you don't find places so loud everywhere else in the world. Anyway, again, I've segued, so I've given three films till now. Do you need more, or I no? I remember when I again, like I said, I was 18 when I was watching one of these films, but I remember watching Eight and a Half, and uh, एक तो we were studying like since we were in the classroom since early morning. Then we used to have a 6 o'clock screening, then go for dinner, and then come back and have a 9 o'clock screening or a 10 o'clock. I'm not forgetting right now what it was like, but it was back to back stuff. Like even in the class, we were watching stuff, discussing. We were very tired. By the last show, no matter how great a film was, because I remember watching Psycho again on the big screen over there, and I remember the murder happened, and she got like stabbed, and everything happened in the shower scene and everything. And the next thing I know, I've woken up and I know that like I know who the murderer is. And like what happened in between the film, like I had completely it was not even in my control. It's not like I didn't even know when I dozed off. And imagine dozing off in Psycho, which is not at all like it's a slow film, it's a thriller. Like there's no reason, but we were just so tired. So I keep feeling like maybe eight and a half I didn't enjoy that much because of the fact that I was in a very fatigued state of mind that time. But yeah, that I know that film is spoken about so much. I had a beautiful experience with Seven Samurai, like a wonderful experience. Like when I saw it, I was like, oh my god, I cannot believe what I have just witnessed right now. Also, there's a movie called Sunrise, the Song of Two Souls. I kept thinking like these actors know that almost 100 years later there'll be people watching them and they will still be smiling and they'll still like. Can you imagine the power of cinema to immortalize a story and immortalize artists in a way that their story can still be seen by a group of people in a darkened room and hold the. I think that's the magic that I get very overwhelmed by, and I which is why I take this work so seriously. I feel like people are always trying to find immortality in like these weird ways, like park bench pe naam likhwana, ya yeah, I have to put my name into like send it into this into space somewhere so it's floating around or whatever. But this is one art that whether you do good work or mediocre work, it's there. Now it's there in the universe. So you better do good work. Again, I've segued, but I can keep talking about cinema forever. So unless you want to navigate this conversation, because the films can never end. I can keep giving you an endless list of
Okay,
films.
we 10 films. You can give me 10 films.
10 films. Okay. Again, see, this will be just a stream of consciousness wala thing. Okay, because though I'll recently what happened is I did share a list of names with a friend of mine, list of names of films with a friend of mine for just to share about something that we are doing, films that I really like. So maybe some of it might come from there. But Incendies is one film. Uh, I have always said this, that Incendies is one film that I remember watching alone in my room on my laptop, and it got over, and I felt like I cannot move and I was crying, and I started the film again, and I watched the film all over again, like twice back to back on the same night. And I don't think I've ever had that experience. Like even if you really really like the film and you want to watch it again, but if you've seen it in the theater, for example, you watch it, you come out and you're like, "मैं देखूंगी वापस से." It's not like you instantly enter and you buy the tickets. Some people might do that, but I've never done that. But with Incendies, I think it's the only film where I watched it back to back on the same night. Like literally, I think it was a 5 minute gap, and I had to play it all over again. I cannot imagine how someone can take a play and it was a stage play, and make it into what it became. Okay, that's one. I did name while you were talking earlier. Where is the friend zone? Where is the friends? Where's my friend? Where's the friend's house? Abbas Kiarostami. Um, I always say home. I think it's officially house. And again, it I think it was my initiation into Iranian cinema, and there is something which is so uh, it's life. Like it's like cinema is larger than life, but I think Iranian cinema is life. You are in life. You're living it. It's happening. It's happening around you. It's you. Uh, like Ken Loach's cinema is very much like that. It feels like it's your neighborhood. It could be this person like living next door to you, that this drama is happening around. So for the first time, I was seeing like how a scene can be so languid, like that one scene where they show that mountain and there's a road around, and I'm just watching it, and I'm still watching it. It's not like my eyes are moved away from there. And it really moved me. And in fact, I must share this with you again, because I have a, as you know, I keep digressing, but this is very cool. I got to interact with Asghar Farhadi very closely. So he was in Bombay for Mami, and I was working with Mami, and I had the privilege of spending a whole number of days with him, very very closely. And he had said one thing during one conversation that I had witnessed, and it was a public conversation. He was introducing his film, and I think Rajiv Masand was asking the questions and all, and he had asked about what is the one thing that you feel is very different with Hindi films and Bollywood and Iranian cinema, and he had said the one thing that happens a lot in our cinema, which is the Bollywood like Hindi cinema, is the overuse of music. There's a lot of BGM that gets used. It's almost like uh, we are not sure you will feel. He didn't say this. This is me. This is me saying it. We are not sure you're going to feel this emotion. So let me add the violence so you can feel it. This is meant to be scary. So let me add the dum 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 so you know that this is a scary moment or whatever it is. It's almost like you're guiding your audience to feel emotions through your music, and it's not about layering it. It's not like an undercurrent. It's sometimes it's like overpowering. And that was the time when I realized that Iranian cinema is actually a very silent kind of a cinema. They use a lot of like your folly and the ambient sound and everything, but they're not so much about music. They'll come on those critical moments. And there is while I do enjoy music a lot, I'm also a dancer, so I love musicals, and I really enjoy a good song and dance, like the opening number in La La Land. I find that amazing, that how could they picturize this entire song with that car jam and everything. But I really appreciate when you can use silence powerfully and just have that scene. And I have those kind of scenes, and that's why I think I really admire Iranian cinema. Speaking of musicals, I love Singing in the Rain. It was one of my introductions to Western musicals, and every single song in that film, and I think every single performance and every single scene, and just the set construction, the costumes, impeccable direction, the writing, and the best thing is it is a film about the change from the silent era to the talkies. So it's like cinema within cinema, and you're seeing how these actors are grappling with this entire change, and how the studios are figuring out how to incorporate that and everything. And it's always an epic watch. Like I always enjoy that. So that's three. Um, the fourth one, Seven Samurai. I did mention it earlier about how it really captivated me. I have also loved Kurosawa's Dreams, but I think Seven Samurai was my first introduction to him as the master, and it's like what a brilliant man. And have you seen his storyboard? Have you seen the way he paints? Kurosawa used to paint while storyboarding, and every single so he apparently has a degree in art, and he was initially an artist, and he went to art school or something, if I'm not mistaken. And you need to look at his storyboards. You will not believe that there's somebody who can make it so intricately. Like it can get framed, and there should be an exhibition of just Kurosawa's paintings. It's mind-boggling, and I think it explains even the palette of dreams, and how, because the every single sequence in dreams, it's so much like a painting, right? There's yeah, so that um, did I mention Citizen Kane? I mentioned it about watching it as a frame, but that's Citizen Kane also always captivates me. I remember the first time I saw it, it felt like that rosebud thing is like a huge mystery, and I have to like solve it. Like what really what did they mean by uh, Pyasa? I huge fan of Pyasa. I truly feel as an artist, I really relate to that character that Gurudat has created. Amelie, the French film, because she she though is me. Like I feel like I really feel very connected with her, and it was such a quirky film. Like French cinema has a certain quality to it, but this was just there was it was so poetic and colorful, and even today I can keep rewatching it, and the soundtrack is absolutely mind blowing. It's glorious. Um, Little Miss Sunshine is a film that I have loved for its simplicity. There's something about that screenplay that I cannot. It is pretty much an indie film. If you you'll read about it and you will know. And it, the fact that they could bring this story about these characters and put them into this minivan, and create so much drama. And I have watched that. There was an exercise once which Shan told me that if you want to just hone your skill as a filmmaker, pick up a film that you really like, and then do a short breakdown. Like study how a scene has been constructed by the editor and how it's been shot. So at what point did they have a close up, and what point did they go for the wide and everything, and you do that. And I was studying the film, and the more I studied, I'm like, it's so simple, and yet there's just so much that's happening, and it's so emotional because of that. And I love Michael Dana's soundtrack in that. And again, it's beautiful, and maybe it's a bias that I have. I think I have a huge bias about child actors who are brilliant in the films that they are in. Like Sixth Sense, I love Haley Joel Osment in it. I just love his performance. I have not seen the film for a while. I was just discussing recently. I'm not sure how well it's aged over time, because we have just seen so many films since, including Get Out, and horrors of a certain kind. But at that point in time, it felt Lagan. Lagan was an epic theatrical experience, and I remember watching it, and everyone in the theater was in a cricket stadium suddenly. It was, and with Rahman's music and everything, it was. And also I think in the recent times in Hindi cinema, it's been that one film which also paid this ode to the classic cinema of earlier, the V. Shantaram cinema, and and the ones that it is, I think nothing since Lagan has come close to being a film like that. Because even choreography, I have a huge problem with the way things started getting choreographed in Hindi cinema, because suddenly the choreography was happening not by the dancers and the actors, in the sense they were not the ones dancing, the editor was dancing. You would see the camera movement is like, going to the beats, and then the editor is cutting it from like 10 angles, and then you're not really seeing like where is the music in this, where are the movements in this, which you would see in earlier films. in like say Vijayanand's film, whether you're seeing a guide or a jewel thief, you're seeing that choreography right on stage or play on screen. Uh, Lagan got even that right. It got so many of these elements right. I think I can watch that film like n number of times. I can also watch Titanic n number of times. I know these are very accessible titles because they are something that everyone can watch. But I feel that there's a lot of merit to that because we sometimes as filmmakers, start doing very serious cinema, which is very niche. And like I'll tell you, oh my God, Dogville and you know. Open Your Eyes, Los Ojos, which was made into Vanilla Sky later on, or something which of course they were all great, but not many people would have seen it. But there's also something amazing about a filmmaker being able to create great art and get n number of people to watch it. And I really appreciate when someone can achieve that kind of uh, finesse and perfection in a massy and commercial story. Having said that, I had had a wonderful experience watching a film by Wim Wenders called Until the End of the World, and I had seen the director's cut. The director's cut, I think, is 4.5 hours long or 4 hours 40 minutes long, and I saw it during lockdown, and I had no idea what I was going to watch. It was just one of those random things which were available on YouTube at that point in time. The link is not active anymore, and I was like, "What has this person done?" It was so bizarre. Like you can't wrap your head around the bizarreness of it, and yet you stay invested in the film. So that is one film but I'm not sure everyone will watch it and like it. It seems like one of those things that you like at a point in time, and maybe it was just you in that very special moment of being alone in your room, and somebody might see it and go like, "What, 4 hours, 40 minutes, or who makes a film that long?" Um, yeah, I don't. I have lost count of how many films I've named, but I feel like I've named plenty.
Three more.
So this is not about a specific film, but during lockdown, I started this entire thing with mom where we started playing films like randomly, films that we had either watched or had not seen, and they're just available maybe on even on YouTube because they are in the public domain or somebody's uploaded them. And I discovered Ida Lupino. And even though I, as somebody who's an aspiring filmmaker and claims to be a filmmaker, should know about her, she is one of the first like big recognized directors in America, female directors, an actress who also started directing. And I've watched some of her films, and that woman fascinates me. And she, uh, like, you'll see her pictures, and you'll see somebody because she's an actress, and she'll have her makeup on and these manicured nails and everything, but then she's holding her camera, and it's such a powerful image for me to see somebody from back then. This was what 19 late 1940s, 1950s, and I think even Scorsese has named her as somebody like you should watch her films and all. And she made films on subjects which were socially relevant, uh, like an unwed woman who's pregnant or somebody who's been raped. And but I think I saw Hitchhiker, which is also one of the films that she made, and there was just something. Like I can't speak about the specific film so much because I think she as a personality just is somebody who I just get deeply inspired by and I'm in awe of. So her cinema is something that I would just club together and say that okay, yeah, that's something to watch. As a kid, I saw a film called The Ten Commandments. Okay, uh, Cecil DeMille, right?
Cecil B. DeMille.
Exactly. And I had this huge fascination for Egypt, and not for why, as the pyramids, and you get very fascinated by the image of pharaohs, and you think like, oh my God, the Egyptian culture. There's something so magical about that ancient Egypt time. And when I saw this film, and I remember seeing this section where they show the pyramids getting built, you know, And even today, after so many years, I watched the film recently again during lockdown. I cannot imagine, because now we have like VFX and we have like these big studios and green screens and like whatever. And yet, sometimes when you see films, even that we make big budget films, you can see that ye bahut ganda VFX. Like you can see that this special effect is not very special. You know, it is a little cringe. And here is a film that got made at that point in time, and you feel like you're watching the pyramids getting built. You feel like it's actually happening. Like, you know, when even the Nile gets parted, and uh, yes, there might be a more sophisticated way of showing it, but to me, it's fascinating that they pull it off at that point in time. And I'm not saying it for technical reasons. I think it is a very fascinatingly told story. It keeps me invested in the characters and the performances, and it's the costumes and the epicness of it. And you know, they had this entire thing at a point in time when they would start films. There would be like this epilogue, and I think they would call it the prelude, where the music would keep playing for a long time. The film would not start; it's just the music playing. And I think at that point in time, it was a culture that okay, the music is playing now. People who are outside or whatever just come and be seated, and now you you be prepared for the film to start. You know, you get into the mood. Something that recently in Zone of Interest they had used that, where it just takes so long to like begin the film. You get into the zone of okay, the film is it's starting. It's starting. You're waiting for it. It's there in the Ten Commandments. You know, the music began. I was getting goosebumps, and I can imagine what it felt like being in the theater at that point in time. Again, somebody might have a view on it because of religion and whatnot, and that's not something that I'm even thinking of right now. But cinematically, it's Ten Commandments, Ben Hur. These are all films that are just captivating in what they have managed to achieve. Um, three more. I had seen a film, and this is actually a very recent film. I had seen this film called Summer 19. Okay, I have to just Google and just verify it once, huh? Because if I'm wrong, whether it's summer 1997 or 1990, yeah, it's summer 1993, not 97. And this is a film by a director called Carla Simon, and it had played at Mami, and and seen it at the festival. And it's again one of those very simple films about a girl who's lost her parents, and now she's come to live with her aunt. And it is just that one summer where she has, you know, come into this house, and now she has not really grieved the loss of her parents yet. Like she's not really processed that and not really expressed that, but she's now in this new family set up with her aunt and uncle and a cousin that she's living with, and now this is her new family. And it's such a slow burn. It's like it's just the drama isn't just like I said, life, but it is so beautiful if you get a chance to watch it, and the way
It's a small girl who goes to like another family. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I've seen
yeah,
this. It's a great
yeah.
film.
And you know, there was this very simple scene, and I love that scene because you know, in films they'll show you blood in war, and they'll show you blood in every other way. But oh my god, if you show menstrual blood, it's like a huge thing. Like how can you show it? But they had this scene with menstrual blood in that, which was shown so beautifully because this girl has seen the loss of her mother, and her mother, I think they say it in some way. I think she had AIDS. She was HIV positive or something, and but she went slowly and she suffered or whatever, and then this child lost the mother. uh, I could be wrong about the reason why she passed, but she had seen her mother suffer and be in hospitals and seen blood and everything. And there's a very simple scene, I think in the pool or something, like they are, and she's with the aunt, and the aunt wants to change, and they've come to the bathroom or something, and because she's right there, and the aunt goes to change, and like in front of her, she notices menstrual blood on her aunt, and she gets worried, and then she goes to her aunt and she says, "Are you going to die?" it was just, you're making this child who's dealing with grief and has fear and trauma inside of her and is not expressing it, but in a moment like this, like what is triggering it and how it's exactly how kids behave in real life. And and I always find the stories of children very fascinating. One of the projects which I'm working on is only with kids, because I think there's so much drama in children's lives and children's heads that we feel अरे ये तो बच्चे हैं, ये तो क्या. It's been tapped so beautifully. Speaking of which, Florida Project, like that's another other film I can like watch and revisit n number of times, and I cannot imagine um, how much drama can you show by keeping it in the background, not even in the foreground. So the foreground is this rainbow chasing fairyland, colorful bubblegum ice cream world of the kids, but right in the background, there's just so much going on. Like that bathtub scene, right? Where that man comes to place, or like there's so much that is happening constantly in that film, and it's breaking your heart, but at the same time, the kids are smiling, so you feel like you're meant to smile till, of course, in the end when she starts crying. Um, that's another film. So I have done these, and I feel like I'm under pressure because there's only one. And what if I miss out on something which is like a major gem, and like it's very important to me, but I should have named it, and then I'll regret it afterwards.
One Indian film like in recent year after 2010, if you could recommend something.
Like you're saying, like last year,
Uh,
2023, or
After 2020, 2010.
after 2010, like recent film from India, right? Like overall from India. Can I just name it? It's a very unlikely film to name because it's a very commercial and fun film. But I will name it for the simple fact that when I saw it, I had no expectations, and then suddenly I was like, I cannot imagine how someone. I think I've used this phrase a lot in this call right now. I cannot imagine how someone can take the superhero theme and root it in India so beautifully, and that's Minnal Murali. I I could see elements of, the Batman universe, for example, whether it's the Joker or the Scarecrow and everything, and or the Two Face and Two Face or Half Face, Aaron Eckhart's character. I'm forgetting what the name is. It's all there, and yet it is happening in this village in India, and it is authentic to that village, and it also has that, that 80s vibe, and it has that music. And I have mm, I think it's been a while since I got entertained like that, where I was laughing and and I think cinema is supposed to do that, like transport you to some other world and some other time, and the fact that it managed to do it so convincingly. And I don't think it had the kind of budgets that a lot of uh, so-called big superhero-ish films or action films, especially in the Hindi-speaking industry, tend to have, right? But it's so brilliantly done, and I feel if people have not watched that film, there should be definitely a bigger audience for it.
Great, man. Great. You have given a great list. Thank you so much. Someone talks about cinema so passionately. Great. So, my last question is: if somebody wants to become a producer, filmmaker, so what advice would you give to them?
Keep watching cinema, watch lots of films, keep watching, and never think you know anything. My mother taught me something when I was very small, and she said, you have to be a student for life. And she keeps telling this to me every other day, because actually she doesn't even tell that to me, I see it in her. Like, you should see the enthusiasm with which she will watch, like during Mami in Bombay, when the festival is on. And this has been a tradition with us since forever, like before Mami was so big and commercial, and since forever we've been going there. It's like it's a like नवरात्रों पे जो गुजरातियों के घर में जो रौनक आती होगी ना, या दुर्गा पूजा में जो कलकत्ता में आती होगी, वो हमारे लाइफ में मामी के टाइम पे आती है. So like we know that the next 10 days or something, it's only going to be about cinema, and it's never about, hey, I'll watch so many films and I'm going as somebody who's a master, and I'm going to look at it with critical lens. No, it's not that. It's like, okay, show me more, show me something, and we're here. Show us the old classics again. Show us new filmmakers. Tell us what your voice is. We are here for you. So I see that in her, and I see that no matter what her experience is, she's constantly learning and constantly conversing with even my friends and all. She'll want to engage as an equal, like So I feel like I'm a student for life, and I know today somebody watching me will be like, oh, who is she to give us any advice right now? In the sense that she's not an Imtiaz Ali, or I don't know, Vidhu Vinod Chopra, or whoever, like whichever director you might really admire. She's not that person to be giving some kind of a, she's not had a career where she'll give an advice right now to us. But I, I sense that even from the people that I look up to, including Steven Spielberg or a Martin Scorsese, you will hear them speak about cinema, and you realize that they are constantly watching films and they're learning from it. And they don't shy away from the fact that there's still so much to do and to explore. And I think that's the one thing I would say to anyone out there. Don't think you know, and please don't shy away from watching regional cinema and Hindi cinema and old, like there are a lot of these filmmakers who come in and they're like, we watch world cinema and we watch French cinema and we'll watch like Spanish and we'll watch like the weirdest of cinema from, I don't know, from Germany or Korea or whatever. Like we'll watch anything, but no, please don't make us watch Hindi films. And it's weird because don't make us watch a Tamil film or a Bengali film or a northeastern film or wherever it is, the film, a Punjabi film. Like I remember as a kid, my mom made me watch Shaheed Mohabbat, which inspired Gadar. And I can tell you that Shaheed Mohabbat is a superior film. It's a beautiful film. It has Gurdas Mann and Divya Datta, if I'm not mistaken. I saw it as a child, and everything about the film is. I mean, I love Sunny Deol, so please, it's I love the Deol family. They're super cool. But I'm trying to say that you just never know what has inspired what cinema, and there's just so much to learn and so much to see. So keep learning and keep watching.
Ma'am, thank you so much, ma'am, for joining. Such, such, such a
Thank you so
pleasure,
much,
ma'am.
Akash. Thank you so much, Akash, and I'm looking forward to all the work that you're going to be doing,
Okay.
and looking forward to all the cinema that you'll be making.